Russia, Ukraine is so stupid. Would have never happened if I was president. You guys agree with that, right? Would have never happened if I was president. Putin would have never done it. And I spoke to him yesterday, and I said, you know, he actually offered to help mediate. I said, do me a favor. Mediate your own. Let's mediate Russia first, okay? I said, Vladimir, let's mediate Russia first. You can worry about this later.
Donald Trump laughing at Vladimir Putin offering to act as a mediator between Iran and Israel was great. It shows two things. One, that Vladimir Putin is trying to look at ways of playing Trump, or continuing to play Trump. He's got it wrong on this occasion. And because Trump turned around and said, no, sort your issues out with Ukraine first and foremost and focus on that. And it shows that Trump is not necessarily marching to Putin's drumbeat as much as we think he is. US has got many more national interests in what's going on in the Middle East than it does between Russia and Ukraine, which is why we're seeing Trump focused there. And I think Putin will be slightly embarrassed by that reaction from Trump and will be wondering how he can get the initiative back again and get some form of control back again. We haven't seen that play out yet. Let's see what the statements are that come out after Trump's made his decision as to whether he's going to attack Iran or not. I don't think Putin anticipated all of this would start, but there has been a lot of anxiety going on that Putin's been aware of for quite some time. You know, a couple of months ago, we had that first phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin talking about ceasefires in Ukraine and trying to push that. Controversial phone call that everyone said Trump shouldn't do. Trump went ahead with it. The one bit that didn't get widely reported was at the end of the conversation, Donald Trump turned around to Vladimir Putin and said, do not give Iran the technology that could be used to destroy the Israeli state. And therefore, he was referring directly to supplying nuclear warheads to Iran. Iran, I suspect, for the supply of Shahed 136 drones, was not just after Su-35 advanced fighters, but it was after nuclear technology as well. And it's clear that Donald Trump had been watching that and gave Vladimir Putin a warning. But I don't think Putin will have anticipated what Israel started last Friday and what's happening now. There is a strong possibility that Iran will have been given some nuclear insights by Russia. Iran, from a military perspective, from its tactics, its doctrine, its equipment, it's all old Soviet doctrine and equipment and tactics and everything else. So that relationship has been very, very close for many, many years. And therefore, in giving Iran insights to how to take your civilian nuclear industry and turn your nuclear reactors into manufacturing sites for weapons-grade uranium, in the case of the Iranians, is something that it would not surprise me if the Russians had helped them with it. In the same way, it would not surprise me if the Russians are helping North Korea. Putin's very concerned about losing another ally in the region. He used the region as a stepping off point for a lot of his operations into Central Africa and elsewhere. He uses the region for a lot of his oligarchs. There's an awful lot of Russian oligarchs living in Israel, living in the UAE and elsewhere. He's still got, I'll not necessarily say friendly countries, but countries that are not enemies of Russia, but he doesn't have that same military link and geopolitical link and diplomatic link that he did with Syria and with Iran. He will be concerned about not being able to take that and use it to influence wider issues across the Middle East. It was a big market for him. It's still economically an area that he's got huge interest in, but he's losing that influence, and that will be of concern to Vladimir Putin.
I have ideas as to what to do, but I haven't made a final. I like to make the final decision 1 second before it's due, because things change. I mean, especially with war, things change with war. It can go from one extreme to the other. But with that being said, I would say right now, Israel, from the standpoint of winning a war, is doing pretty well.
Russia does genuinely want the US not to bomb Iran. It'll do anything to try and protect its ally in the Middle East. It's concerned about wider relations. It would be concerned about any potential regime change, and that a new regime being more Western focused. That's the last thing that Russia wants. It's very happy with an Iran that is causing disruption across the Middle East, causing disruption for Western powers, because that's taking a lot of the political focus and economic focus away from dealing with Russia. And that's what Russia's primary focus is on this. There's no possibility of Russia coming to Iran's aid in a military sense. Russia does not have the military wherewithal to even properly prosecute its operations against Ukraine inside Ukraine. It can't generate mass. It hasn't got the capability to pick something up and transport it to Iran to support Iran. That would denude the very limited capability it's got at the moment. Russia is hemorrhaging military capability across the board. So we hear lots of words. It could do something in the information domain. It might be able to do something in the cyber domain. It'll use as much political influence and diplomatic influence as it's got, but that's it. It's a close relationship, and it's one that has been building up over the years. You have to remember Russia was heavily involved in Syria until the change of regime in Syria, which has effectively pushed the Russians out. Iran was their ally in the region, and Iran supported Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, a lot of the other rebel groups that are operating through Syria and through Iraq. And therefore, with Russia's relationship with Iran, it was keeping the Russian presence safe from those different groups, with the common enemy being the West, the United States and the United Kingdom. Iran has traditionally always hated the UK. The 17th of January, he signed it with the new Iranian president. It really was the start of what Putin was hoping to be a military materiel relationship. Iran supplying Shahed 136 drone technology to Russia so Russia could manufacture the drones there and components, having supplied completed drones and potentially then further military aid with ballistic rockets, and it would turn into a more comprehensive political agreement. Of course, oil is at the center of it. Both countries are sanctioned in the supply of oil, but it's working out that closer relationship. And for Iran, it was getting advanced Russian aircraft capability. And I saw Putin had proposed an air defense capability to Iran to, in the way Putin described it, rival the Iron Dome system that Israel has got. But then Putin turned around in the summit that he had with the Iranians just recently and suggested that Iran hadn't followed that through, which is why they didn't have it at the moment.
With your permission, I hope this will be the most correct answer to your question. I do not wish to even discuss such a possibility.
I think when Putin won't even discuss it, it's because he doesn't want to be embarrassed. He doesn't want to speculate. He will have his intelligence agencies trying to work out what the Israelis are planning, what the Americans are planning, and everything else. He doesn't want to say one way or the other in case he's proven wrong, because it would, he would lose face if he turned around and said, no, they're not going to target him, and suddenly he drops dead the next day because of a successful Israeli attack. Then that would make Putin look very embarrassed. So he's playing the diplomatic game.